What's up guys, it's me Jeremy. You know, hitboxes are pretty common in gaming nowadays, and I'm sure you've definitely run into the word hitbox a few times in the past. And Overwatch uses these hitboxes similar to the same way that other shooters do, while also using some other systems to determine how the mechanics of the game hit, miss, and operate. And so today we're taking an in-depth look at hitboxes in Overwatch. And if you haven't already, hit that like button and let's get started. So a hitbox is the loose term given to the blocks or capsules or whatever you want to call it of invisible geometry surrounding an object or a character in a video game. These boxes give the game a solid area to figure out and calculate a whole bunch of things running in the background. It's how the game determines what hits or misses when we're slinging bullets, hammers, and arrows around the maps at other players. Think of Pharah's character model, for example. Now think about just her right arm maybe. Take that arm and place a box around the entire thing that's about maybe double the size of that arm, and that's probably the area in which your shots will actually do damage and make a connection and land on her arm. And several of these boxes cover all the parts of the characters in the game. So Overwatch, as like pretty much most games nowadays, use what's called an edge-to-edge technique. So the edge-to-edge technique uses coding and systems to determine how the edge of one hitbox from projectile or ability, like maybe Hanzo's arrow, connects with another target's hitbox, like Roadhog's face. And for an ability to land, you need one edge of one hitbox to hit the edge of the other hitbox, thus edge to edge. And these bounding boxes differ from hero to hero, usually covering the hero's body and or anything that they're using or wearing, such as weapons or armor. Hitboxes differ in size from one hero to the next, of course. For example, Tracer has a very small and slender overall hitbox, making her harder to hit, while Reinhardt or Roadhog has a much larger, rectangular sized hitbox, generally just a larger hitbox in general, of course making him a lot easier to land shots on. These hitboxes extend a decent bit from the model of the hero, weapon, or projectile as well, which allows for a bit of slack when connecting shots to the target, but can also result in times when an ability looking like a miss ends up actually hitting. The hitbox of a hero itself is further broken down into body boxes and head boxes, allowing for shots in various areas of the body to look more believable rather than just one large area surrounding the character. These boxes also determine the amount of damage received from bullets and abilities. Shoot them in the head hitbox for double damage, and there you go. So some abilities are straightforward in how they interact with hitboxes. Most projectiles like bullets use the essential rule of if your crosshair is over the target when you fire, you're gonna hit them. Other abilities like Reinhardt's hammer swings actually travel as they calculate their hitboxes, and as a result you're left with some pretty complicated stuff. So for example, when Reinhardt swings, he can actually hit multiple targets in one pass if the hitbox connects, which of course is devastating, feels really good when you connect with it too. And with the speed of the game in general, the Overwatch dev team has to be fairly forgiving when it comes to what counts as a hit and what counts as a miss, so here's how they calculate it. If you're familiar with online shooters, you may have heard the term netcode used before when talking about players hitting other players. So going hand in hand with hitboxes, the netcode is the code used to figure out if you really did hit that other player or not. Overwatch as a game uses what's called the favor the shooter technique in the netcode. Essentially, the hitboxes are calculated from the person who fires the projectile, the person shooting, and they're not calculated from the target who's dodging them, which is designed this way to counter input lag, delays, and a bunch of other stuff. And this type of lag can sometimes result in a shot hitting when it looks like it would miss from the target's perspective, which is why minimizing it is of a pretty big concern to the dev team. And as a result of this coding, you do sometimes end up getting hit by shots that it looks like you might not have. Blizzard's even stated that kill cams and replays don't always show what happened during a play accurately, and that's because of the way that they set up their netcode. So Blizzard wants firing the weapon to feel more responsive to the shooter, which is why they design things to favor the shooter to begin with. They've decided that it feels worse to miss something that you felt like you should have hit rather than to get hit by something that you felt should have missed. Because the thing is that usually the person shooting, if they miss a shot that they felt like they should have hit, they're going to notice that a lot more often than a target that gets hit by something that they felt should have missed. It's somewhat of a simple concept, but it does have a lot of really complicated tech and coding behind it to help both the shooter and the target feel like their shots and their dodges are accurate and make sense. So the third piece of the puzzle that we have is hit scan versus projected weaponry. which is the two types of weapons in Overwatch. So hit scan is essentially pretty simple. It says that when you press the fire button, an invisible line is drawn in the direction that you shot, and if any enemy's hitbox is in that line's path at that moment, it registers as a hit. So essentially what it means is that the shot is instant. It's not affected by the target's movement or positioning abilities like maybe Tracer's blink, for example. If that shot was fired before Tracer blinked, according to the server, then it's a hit. Widowmaker, McCree, and Soldier 76 are great examples of hit scan heroes and require really good timing and precision aiming in order to maximize their shots and abilities. So for projectiles, we're talking about weapons that have a travel time, and they are generally just slower to use than the hit scan weapons. So this is going to be stuff like Hanzo's arrow, Zarya's grenade ability, stuff like that. So sticking with the Hanzo arrow example, it does actually take time from when you charge and release the shot to when it hits or misses the target, which gives the target time to dodge while the projectile is in the air, using movement abilities or just sidestepping or something like that. And this is a pretty important difference to understand because projected shots and abilities have different types of hitboxes, which is a really big deal actually. Aiming is much more forgiving when you essentially have two hitboxes connecting to one another instead of a single hitbox and a line drawn to intersect the enemy. This is why it feels like non-hit scan heroes have it easier, so to speak, compared to their hit scan counterparts. It's why Hanzo's arrow that we talked about can seem like it's off the mark by a decent amount, but then still count as a hit. Leading a target becomes a lot more important here, though precision aiming not as much as with hit scan heroes. So you can definitely use all this knowledge to your advantage in your games, and using this stuff can really improve your skill level, maybe help you master the heroes that you like to play. So here's something you've probably heard going around the competitive and pro community especially, flick shots. So flickshotting is a method of aiming that relies on your reflexes and muscle memory rather than cognitive aiming. It's like a reactive shot where you kind of just like jerk your crosshairs and just aim really quickly at a specific location. It's much quicker than normal aiming. And based on the way that Overwatch handles hitboxes, it actually gives you a very big advantage when you flick shot. The thing is that because hitboxes are calculated edge to edge, it allows for a lot more breathing room. And with practice, you can make your skill in actually hitting an enemy target a lot higher if you're flick shotting. You'll see larger returns on maybe kill death ratios as well as overall higher accuracy on your heroes once you get the hang of it, and mastering it on heroes, especially guys like Hanzo, maybe even Widowmaker 2, can really enhance your abilities on those heroes. Another potential example is Junkrat. So the travel time of Junkrat's grenades and concussion mine are pretty long, and so being able to flick one onto a nearby enemy without thinking about it, and then also judging where the enemy and your grenade are going to intersect, really improves your skill so much with Junkrat, And so practicing flickshotting is definitely something that's underappreciated that most players could definitely benefit a lot from. And also getting good at flick shots will also lead to really improving your skill at headshots too. Headshots are of course really important because they do double damage, and at the same time you'll also get better at body shots too because they're just that much easier when you're comfortable aiming, so of course it ends up being a win-win. Now pros and competitive players have also used a couple of in-game tools to practice flickshotting and headshots, so the most popular method is probably to play a custom game versus a bunch of Anabots. So recently the Ana AI has been modified by Blizzard, so it's not as useful as it used to be, but you can still definitely do a lot of nice practice drills using the method. So you want to set up a custom skirmish game with all hard Anabots on the enemy team, and then you also set the damage modifier to headshots only, so that only headshots will actually deal damage. Now the thing is that Anabot can't actually headshot, so she'll just like move and dodge, sort of like a non-linear path, which makes her a fantastic target dummy for flick shots and just all sorts of shots, and really just aiming in general, honestly. And so as a result, hopefully with some practice, you guys can help get flick shots down to a science. Really, hitboxes are kind of just one part of the equation on how the shots we make connect with other players, as well as how we dodge incoming damage. But knowing how they work, along with some tips on how to use the knowledge to your advantage, is something that will hopefully help some of you guys become maybe a better player and enjoy your favorite heroes a little bit more. Hitboxes and netcode can be a little bit difficult to understand and pretty finicky as well, but the Overwatch team do seem to have the methods and systems in place to make sure that at least things are as clear-cut as possible when it comes to shooting each other in the face. So what do you guys think about the hitboxes in Overwatch? Definitely let us know in the comment section below, and looks like that's gonna be it for me. If you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like, subscribe if you want. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.